Okay, well, hello, everybody. Welcome to this morning's discussion here. We're very excited to have with us Wilfred Buck, who is just an incredible wealth of knowledge, and he's going to be sharing some of that knowledge with us today. And I want you to think about, we often in education, we only hear one side of a story. We only hear in terms of when we think about the night sky and Western science, it's only telling one side. And so we're really losing out on a lot of knowledge that has pre-existed science. Science is just a baby. It's only new, only maybe, 100 or so years old. But Indigenous knowledge is thousands of years old. And so Wilfred's going to share some of that incredible knowledge with you today in hopes to inspire you to look up, get reconnected and reacquainted with the night sky, and reconsider things that have been left out, and maybe how can we try and bring them back in. Along with us today, we have Troy, who's going to help with the moderating of questions. And if for teachers, you would have been emailed a link to the questions, but if you don't have it handy, no worries. You can just look down below in the description box of the YouTube, and you can find the link to ask questions in there as well. And I'm just going to ask Troy to introduce himself.
Sego, Swego, Wahunuparado, Gasta Saragero, Young Yachts, Winisario, Nyalgoa, Sangwatiso, Winisario. It's a beautiful day here in Tyndonega, or Gundege, as we like to say. And, it's always a good thing when we can see that sun shining and it perks us up, right? So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm honored to be able to help moderate this today. And I'll turn it back to you, Jody, so you can introduce Wilfred.
Great. Okay. Well, I'm going to just turn it over to Wilfred entirely. He'll introduce himself and get going, and we'll invite you to ask those questions when we're ready. So over to you, Wilfred.
All right. Thank you, Jody, and good morning, everybody. I'm turning up the lights here. Oh, thank you. And do it now. For me, I teach you on the Sneagason. I got you, Wilfred Buck, the Sneagason, Opaskwayak Cree Nation. You ask me now. Nusiishagaw, Smanto, Itmagin, and Tutem, Ego, and Itmagin, Mokaskiten. Greetings, my relatives. My name is Wilfred Buck. I'm broadcasting you today from southern Manitoba, the famous city of Winterpeg, where it's nice and cold out. And it's cloudy. It's been cloudy for the last 4 days, and I've been biting at the bit to trying to see that comet. So hopefully it's going to clear up in the next couple of days. I'm originally from Opaskwayak Cree Nation in north central Manitoba, on the banks of the Saskatchewan River, opposite the town of the Paw. And today we've been asked to talk about my people's perspective on the stars, the sky. And of course, the first thing we should understand is that every culture on the face of the earth have their own connections to that sky. Every culture on the face of the earth have their own constellations, have their own stories, have their own sacred tellings, have their own chimawindak, as my people call it, those sacred stories. And so this is one perspective you're going to be hearing. But just be in mind that every culture have their own perspective. And it was Romans and Greeks were the lucky ones who got put into the school curriculum, but everybody understood about that sky, and that's why you only hear about the Roman Greek understanding of that sky, and you only Roman Greek mythology and the Roman Greek constellations. One of the common sense understandings about that night sky is that prior to the Industrial Revolution, prior to the invention of the electric light, prior to the invention of all the distractions that we have nowadays, with all the screens that are in front of our faces all the time, that we have forgotten to look up at that night sky, forgotten to get away from all the light, the artificial light, and look at that darkness, because that darkness is just as natural to us prior to the coming of the Industrial Revolution as the light of day and all the artificial light around us. And we've been come to socialize to think that darkness wasn't a good thing, and it's just part of the natural process. And so every culture understood about that sky because every culture lived under that sky. Up in the northern hemisphere here, we lived under that sky in the wintertime, probably about anywhere from 16 hours a night. And you get up by the Arctic Circle, and sometimes they live under that sky for 2-3 months at a time. If the sun goes down and doesn't come up for a couple months. So they are very familiar with that night sky. And so we're going to be talking about Ininew Hachagasak. Ininew Hachagasak means the Cree skies. And my people, Ininew, is what we refer ourselves as, not Cree. Ininew originates from the root word neo. Neo means four. Four. We are of the four. And we're told in our stories that when we come down here to this place, this physical reality, we take a physical form, and that physical form is made of the four basic elements, which is the earth, air, water, and fire. And this is how we're formed, we're told, and that's one of the interpretations of Ininew being of four. There's a lot of other interpretations, of course. One of the things you'll begin to understand as I go through the process of making this presentation is that Indigenous perspective in regard to the sky is not only in regard to the sky, it's in regard to all reality, and everything that exists is taken in Indigenous perspective. Everything is a wholeness. Everything is at one, and is interacted, is interconnected, and everything has repercussions, and everything has consequences. So all the actions that are done, and these things have to be taken in account when you're in the process of doing something. So we're always told as Indigenous people that our existence begins with the spiritual base, and everything is spirit. In the Cree language, one of the terms, the old Cree language, one of the terms they have in reference to that spirit in regard to the reality around us, they call it Kishiguogak. Kishiguogak means being of light, being of energy, spirit, and these are all melded into one, and they're not separate entities, and everything is one. So when they say spirit, we're referring to light, we're referring to energy. And there's multiple ways to say spirit, depending on what it is you're specifically talking about. Chi Pai is one way of referring to a spirit, and that is when somebody passes on and they say the spirit leaves the body and moves on. Chi Pai is what they refer to that as. Achak, again, it refers to the being of energy, being of light. That Achak is the root word for Achagosak, and Achagosak is what we refer to as the stars up in the sky, those lights up in the sky, Achagosak. And when we say Kishikuogak, the root word for Kishikuogak is Hishikau. Dansi Gishikau, we say. Just like our brother there introduced himself and talked about that light that is outside around where his area is. Out here, it's still dusky right now. It's not, the sun's not shining, and it's pretty dark. Dansi Gishikau, we say. How is that day? How is that light? We're referring to the light of day, Gishikau. So when they say Gishikugak, again, they're referring to that being of light, being of energy. And that term, it talks about depth of knowledge. It talks about another culture's perspective on our reality. Kishigugak, beings of light, beings of energy. We understand that we are energy, and everything is energy. We understand that That's what we say. That's how we're related to everything, because everything is energy, and everything comes from one originator, and that originator for my people is Kitsaman, to our creator. Creator created everything, and we're part of that everything, and that everything is part of us. That's there's a lot of different ways you can look at when somebody says, like a lot of Indigenous people say we are star people, and there's a lot of different ways you can look at that. And one way is that yeah, we are star people, just like uh, Tyson DeGrasse says, is that we are every atom in our body, every molecule in our body is the product of a supernova. When a star explodes, every element that is known to us exists in that explosion, and then at some point, all these elements are melded together and mixed together, and we get planets, we get nebulas, we get comets, we get water, we get air, we get us. So yeah, we're products of supernova. And so that goes along the same lines of when my people say that we are star people, because we are that energy that's created, and we are that energy. We just change form. So with that, we're going to go into talk about Achagasak, those stars in the sky. One of the things about our stars in the sky is that we are divorced from our stars in the sky because of all the distractions and this fast-paced life that we live and we exist in, this artificial existence that we have, that we divorce ourselves from the natural world a large portion of that time. And when we do recognize that natural world, we're totally lost in it, because we're not familiar with those surroundings. And that can be said truly about the sky. When we look at that sky, if we're not familiar with it, then it looks really awesome, but you can't recognize anything. But the thing about that is that the human brain likes to recognize patterns, like to pick out patterns, and from these patterns make things familiar. And so our mind picks out the brightest stars in that sky that we can see immediately. And in our northern hemisphere, one of those groups of stars that we can see immediately, especially just as it starts getting dark, those brightest stars are the Big Dipper, of course. So in this image you're looking at here, you're looking at our northern hemisphere sky. And in our northern hemisphere sky, you're looking at the Roman Greek mythology, Roman Greek understanding, and the Western world understanding of what that sky looks like, with all the constellations that are up there. So when we look at that sky, we tend to pick out patterns. And one of the patterns that we tend to pick out, like I said before, are the brightest stars. And so for us in the northern hemisphere, our half of the world, the sky that we see, we see most prominently the Big Dipper. Those stars of the Big Dipper we see. And these group of stars that you're looking at are stars that are called circumpolar constellations. Circumpolar constellations are constellations that never go below the horizon. And that means they're up all the time. Doesn't matter if it's winter, spring, summer, or fall. They're always up there. And being that they're always up there, they're the ones most recognizable, and those are the ones that we make the most connections with. So people living in the northern hemisphere looking at that sky, they made connections to that Big Dipper, and they found that there was a star up there that was pretty important for navigation at night, and that star was Polaris. So Polaris is right there where Judy's pointing out, right there, that red dot. That's Polaris, and it's the end star, the handle of the Little Dipper. So on the left-hand side, you have the Big Dipper, and on the right-hand side, you have the Little Dipper. And what they found was that if you took the two end stars of the Big Dipper and the bowl, and you lined them up, if you went straight across, they'd point to the Big Dipper, the North Star, Keewatin. My people call that star Keewatin. So here's our pointer stars. Here's a better image of that. You can see the two stars in the bowl of the Dipper, and you line them up and you go straight across and you come to Polaris, the North Star. Now, like I said, every culture in the face of the earth, in our northern hemisphere anyway, I shouldn't say in the face of the earth, in our northern hemisphere, our half of the world, looking up at that sky, they notice things about that star Polaris. And my people call that star Kiwetin. Kiwetin, from the root word Kiwe, which means home. That is the going home star. And one reference we have to that, when we say that's the going home star, Kiwetin, Kiwetinak. Another one is Kiwetinak. And the literal interpretation is like, that's where we go home to. And then Kiwetin means the going home star, basically a directional finder. So Kiwetin, standing in that northern sky. Another understanding that we've found, of course, because being familiar with that sky, people observed that that star there, Polaris, Kiwetin, didn't move. It stayed stationary in the sky. And being that it stayed stationary in the sky, of course, my people gave it another name. They called it Ekagachet. Ekagachet means it stands still. So in the night sky, this is the only star that doesn't move. So here's a good image of that standing still star. You see the North Star just above that middle, that center pine tree there. And as you watch that night sky advance as time progresses, you'll notice that star doesn't move at all. And the image about this is a time-lapse image. And as the time speeds up, you'll start to see the star streaks, and you'll start to see the planets and the comets flying by. And as it speeds up faster, you can see the star trails. And at the center of that is Kiwetin, Ekagachet, standing still, the standing still star. So that's the only star that stands still. And it stands still in the northerly direction, just about above our northern pole. So they knew that that was north. So when they were traveling at night, that was one of the directional finders, important star. You looked at that star at night and you found it, and then you knew where you were. So if you're looking at in the night sky and you're trying to navigate that night sky, an easy way to do that, or I think an easy way to do that is if you imagine what's in front of you as a protractor with 190 degrees. So on the left you have 0, and on the right you have 190. And at 45 degrees is where the North Star is. So the North Star is your 45-degree right angle to your left, right angle to your right. So those are directional finders. And then once you find those angles in relation to all the other stars have particular angles, and they can tell you, they can give you time of day just by looking at them. Like they used to use the Big Dipper all the time in relation to what time of the evening it was. And another fantastic indicator of time of the evening on a general basis is a group of stars called Orion. Now, Orion are a group of stars that come up in probably late November, late September, early October, and they stay with us all winter long. And then around April and March and April, they get below the horizon, or they catch up to the sun, I like to call it. And when they do that, of course, they're out when the sun is out, so you can't see them. So they're winter constellations, and they're seasonal, and they tell us when winter's coming. So this is the famous group of stars called Orion. And you can see in Orion here, immediately when I look at that picture, I know it's early evening. And the way I know it's early evening is at the angle that the way Orion is tilted. So if you look on your left-hand side, you can see Orion tilted at a 45-degree angle towards the left. And that tells, when you look at that, that tells you that Orion is just coming up, so it's early evening. And then when it's standing perpendicular up in the sky, then that tells you that it's mid-evening. It's the mid halfway point between the day during the night. And then when you look on the right-hand side, it's tilted again at a 45-degree angle to the right. That tells you it's going to be morning pretty soon. So these are some directional indicators, and you can use angles to find those things in relation to degrees protractor. So back to so you can see the animation you're moving across the sky. So we're looking in the easterly direction, and now we're looking in the southerly direction as it moves. And then later on, we'll be looking probably in a westerly direction. So these are directional indicators, and I guess they give us time. So now we're looking in a westerly direction. You can see the angle of Orion. And these directional indicators, of course, were very important for people traveling at night in relation to finding where you were in general terms. So looking at Keewatin, looking at Orion, looking at the Dipper, you were immediately aware of your general surroundings, your general area. And of course, that was very important in traveling at night prior to the invention of the GPS and the iPhone. And so the famous group of stars called Orion the Hunter. My people call these group of stars, they call them Ekagaachet. Ekagaachet means the winter keeper. So there's the winter keeper. This is an Anishinaabe interpretation. The people, the Anishinaabe people, they called these group of stars the winter maker. So that's different from what my people call the winter keeper. Though it's using the same stars and the idea is still the same, it's just that they have a slightly different understanding of that group of stars, and that's not uncommon with Indigenous peoples having similar yet different perspectives on that group of stars. And so this group of stars, the Winter Keeper, comes up, like I said, and the thing about the Winter Keeper is that right below his belt there's a group of stars, 3 stars, which are fairly important, because my people look at those stars along with another group of stars in the sky called Andromeda, M45, Messier Object 45, Deep Sky Object. Of course, M45 is Andromeda Galaxy. So when Andromeda Galaxy and that group of stars in Orion were up in the sky, we could see them with the naked eye in the wintertime, because that's the only time they'd be up together at the same time, or maybe once in a while in late fall and early spring. If you stayed up real late, you could see them very, very clearly. But in the wintertime, you can see them clearly. And that group of stars under Orion's belt there's one star in particular. It's not a star at all, but it's a nebula. And it's the famous Orion Nebula. And when you look at that with the naked eye, that Orion Nebula looks like a smudge in your vision. So against the backdrop of darkness and the lights of the stars, you can see a smudge. And same with when you find the Andromeda Galaxy, that too you can see with the naked eye. And when you see with the naked eye, again, it looks like a faint smudge in the sky. And so my people used to call those things Opaskwayak. Opaskwayak means spirit lights. And when these spirit lights were both up in the sky and Orion prominent in the sky, then we knew that it was going to be cold. And there's so many features about the Orion, the group of stars called Orion. And it has numerous nebulas in it, and some of them are very, very famous. In this depiction here, you can see one of the stars in the Orion's belt. It through the Hubble telescope, they gave us a picture of the Horse Head Nebula. So you can see the Horse Head Nebula there. And for me, looking at that nebula right away, the image that springs to mind is a knight in a chess piece, the black knight in a chess piece. There he is, right there. That's how I make that connection to the Horsehead Nebula. And another famous depictions of the Orion Nebula is something called the Pillars of Creation. Now, this is a very famous picture taken by the Hubble, and this is in, of course, the star-forming area called the Orion Nebula, where stars are made, where planets are made, where comets are made, where moons are made, where all these things are made. Is some of the astronomers call it a nursery ground, a nursery for the stars. And so this image was taken. So this image you're looking at in the past. The light we're seeing, we're able to see, has traveled hundreds of thousands of light years to reach us. So the light we're seeing, as we look at the image, could be anywhere from thousands to hundreds of thousands to millions of light years old. And what NASA is telling us is that these image that you're looking at, the pillars of creation, they might no longer exist, because sometime after they took this picture, about 3 or 4 years after they took this picture, there was a supernova near this area in space, and our star exploded. And when that star exploded, the astronomers believed that the energy that was released from that star blew away all the smoke and dust that you see in this image. And so the pillars of creation might no longer exist. Only time will tell when that light comes to us, not to us, but probably to some of people in the future. Because, like I said, we're looking at time and space, and we're looking into the past. And so light travels. They say the estimated light travels at 300,000 kilometers per second. Per second, 300,000. So to find out, for all you math wizards out there, to find out how long light travels in a light year, you take 300,000 per second. You multiply that by 60, and you get 1 minute. You take that answer and you multiply that by another 60, and you get 1 hour. And then you take that answer and you multiply that by 24, and you get 1 day. And then you take that answer from 1 day and you multiply that by 365, and you get your answer, how far light travels in a year, how many kilometers per second light travels in a year. And that's one massively huge number. So it's mind-boggling when they talk about thousands of light years or millions of light years, how big space is. As the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy says, space is big, really big. So that is one understanding we can look at, is that when we look at the night sky, we're looking at the past, and we're looking at time and the process of an order of time as time progresses. And Indigenous peoples and cultures from all over the world understood about that process of time. So if you go back and look at the stars of Orion again. So here we are looking at those stars of Orion again, and there's some important stars there. And one of them is Rigel. Rigel is one of the brighter stars in the hourglass figure of Orion. But another one that is fairly famous is called the Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse is in the shoulder of Orion, is in the shoulder of the Winter Keeper, the Winter Maker. And Betelgeuse is an expanding red giant. The term expanding red giant is, I guess, is the term to identify with, because Betelgeuse expands, but it also contracts. So it expands outwards in space and it contracts. And the reason it does this, we're told, is that because it has used up the majority of its energy. It's at a particular time in its lifespan, in its period of existence, that all of its energy is just about depleted. And as it's used up, this energy becomes very unstable when it gets to this point. And so being unstable, it'll expand and it'll contract, and it'll expand and it'll contract. And then astronomers say that at some point, Betelgeuse is going to go supernova. It's going to explode. It's going to blow up. And so when it does that, Orion will never be the same for us. But it might have done that as time progresses, long before the stars of Orion will have, or long after maybe, the stars of Orion will have moved their shape, and there'd be another shape. Because when we're looking at time, when we're looking at that sky, we got to look in reference to time, and we got to look in reference to space. Because what we're seeing right there, the stars of Orion, are gives us a impression that all these stars are in one particular plane, and they're reflecting their light from us. When the fact is that they're not on one particular plane. Like if you look at the Horsehead Nebula, if you can see that in the night sky with your naked eye, then the Orion Nebula and the stars of Orion, the knife of Orion, those are 1,344 light years from us. But then if you look at Betelgeuse is only 642 light years from us. So there's a big difference in relation to our Earth. So they're not on one flat plane. They're far further away and closer, and but they look like the same. We're looking at the same sky. We look at that night sky, and we get the impression that everything is up there is on one plane, and everything is at an equal distance, when in fact it's not. And these are understandings that relate to math, because we're told that math is the basis of science, and math is can be pretty much introduced to all things that we know. It can be related to a mathematical formula, a mathematical equation, and that's one of the basic understandings of how they come up with their theories. The theories of the particle theory, the quantum theory, all these things are math-based, math-related, and the math equations. So a simple thing just from directional finders, using the angles into more in-depth understandings of scientific theory, all in relation to math. So math is fairly important. As science is very important. I had the opportunity to travel around with a portable planetarium, an inflatable dome, and I took it around to a lot of the schools in northern Manitoba. And a lot of these schools in northern Manitoba, they're isolated schools. They're communities that are pretty much far away from any urban areas around. And if anybody ever watched a TV show on Discovery Channel called Ice Road Truckers, this is the roads that they use to travel to these isolated communities. And these are the roads I used to drive on to travel to these isolated communities. And getting to these isolated communities and looking up at those night skies, they have awesome skies because, of course, they don't have all kinds of light pollution all around them. They can just go a little ways from the community at night, and you can see really, really awesome skies, and you can see dark, dark skies, and you can make out the Milky Way and everything up there. Even Elon Musk's satellites, you can make all these things out, and it's pretty amazing to be able to see that. And anyways, I was taken around this planetarium to these schools, and the students that I started showing these night sky objects too, because for a lot of the schools, they don't have no night observation other than the eye, the naked eye, and a lot of them didn't go out at night really to look at the night sky. They were too busy in their community doing other things, and so a lot of them were really impressed, and a lot of them were amazed at the knowledge that our people have of that night sky, and they ate up all the information that I gave them, and they talked about, when I talked about the things like the Big Dipper, and what our people talk about our understandings of that Big Dipper or the Little Dipper or Orion or Cassiopeia, or all these stories, and how our people interpret these things, and how our people have connected that sky to our reality. So if you look at this map here, this is Ininew, and that translates as the Cree Star Map. So this is a Cree Star Map. And of course, if you look at the star map in the background in light blue, you can see the recognizable constellations of the Roman Greek mythology and the Western educational system. And in the foreground, you can see the Cree stars. So here are some of the stars you were looking at there in that image. And these are the Cree stars in the foreground. And you can see that the Cree stars don't cover the whole sky. But I'm told that at one point, our people had understandings of all of those stars in the sky. One elder said to me that one night we were outstanding outside of a place called Ininew in outside of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, on the northern plains of North America, looking up at that night sky in a late September night. It was cold, it was windy, and we were looking at that night sky. It was nice and clear. And the elder told me is that every star you can see with the naked eye. He said, our people had a story about, a sacred telling, an understanding, a teaching. And each of those stars were connected to a constellation. Each of those stars had a name in relation to the constellation, and had a sacred story that connected us to that sky world. And due to the historical trauma that happened to our people, we lost anywhere from 75 to 85% of that knowledge base. So now, after all the historical trauma, we've lost 85% of that knowledge base. So now we're operating at a 15% knowledge base. So what you're seeing up in the sky right now is about 15 to maybe 20% of the knowledge we had prior to the coming of the Europeans. And we're just rediscovering this knowledge. That knowledge is out there. We're just reconnecting with it. So you're looking at about 18 images right there. And the thing about, like I said, the thing about the Indigenous astronomy is that a lot of these stories, they're interchangeable. So if you look at where that bear is right there, those are the stars of the Dipper, the Big Dipper. But in the sacred tellings, there's about 6 or 7 stories there. They're overlapped on top of each other. And then you go down on the bottom at the stars of Orion, where that guy is pointing, the Winter Keeper. You've seen the Anishinaabe version, where the Anishinaabe version included the other star there, and so in that image there's about 3 or 4 different tellings. So they're overlapped, but they use the same stars, and those stories are interchangeable, and the stars remain the same. It's just that depending on what point it is that I want to be brought across, then that's the story that will be told. And when that story is told in relation to the sky, other constellations in the sky or other phenomena in the sky get different names. So when you're looking at that image of Orion right in the background there, you can see a very light tan color running across. That's the Milky Way. And at various understandings, that Milky Way has a lot of different names. So if you look up, so we look at this image here. So there's a Milky Way running across the sky. And this is a composite image of Roman Greek mythology and my people's understandings. And this map was done by a man named Don Monkman. And Don Monkman is pretty awesome video tech. And anyways, we put this image, I told him which stars to use: the stars of Andromeda, the stars of Perseus, and the stars of Auriga. So these are the stars. And this image here, when we're talking about the night sky and we're talking about Namao, the sturgeon, so it's the big fish right here. When we're talking about this, the river that he's swimming in right here, the Milky Way, is called Bacc. Bacc, the river of spirits. And this is gives us a time continuum. This tells us about a time continuum. This particular Achimoan, the sacred telling. So the fish here that's depicted is Namao the sturgeon. And Namao the sturgeon, we're told to our people, was in charge of ancestors, was in charge of bloodline, was in charge of time, was in charge of the generations. So Namao was in charge of all these things. And so the teachings that were given through Namao had to do with those things. And this is how we connected with our bloodlines, with our clans, with our family clans, with our ancestors, with our relatives, and with time itself, and with that sky. So the time continuum, where the nose is of that sturgeon, they say is the future. And where that tail is of that sturgeon, they say is the past. And we, in the present, are right in the center of that group of stars, that constellation. There are 7 main stars my people pick out of that constellation. And we are the center one. And the center star sits right inside the Milky Way. So if we look at that image of that fish swimming in the sky there, and the Milky Way, we're referring to the Milky Way as the river of spirits. On either side, we have 3 generations, 3 in front of us, and 3 generations behind us. And so, as we're sitting there, we're told that we have influence over 7 generations, and this is one of the 7 generations teachings. And with the 7 generation teachings, you'll find again multiple understandings of what that means. And this is one of the interpretations, the 7 generations teachings. We hold influence over 7 generations, 3 generations in front of us and 3 generations behind us. So if you look at Namao, there's 3 main stars in front of us. And of course, those 3 main stars are our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. So if we look at 3 stars in front of us at the nose of that fish, that Namao the sturgeon, is our great-grandchildren. And then if we turn around and look behind us, there are 3 generations behind us, which are our parents, our grandparents, and our great-grandparents. So then if you look at the tail of that sturgeon, there are stars in Andromeda. That 1 star represents our great-grandparents. So at either end of that fish, we have great-grandchildren and great-grandparents. And my people, we have a name for these great-grand relatives. We call them Chaapan. Chaapan can be loosely translated as the ones that tie together. So our great-grandchildren, our Chaapan, they tie together our future. And our great-grandparents in the past, our Chaapan, they tie together the past. So this is a time continuum, and we are the center of that time continuum. So whatever knowledge is brought forward to our Chaapan, to our grandparents, to our parents, and given to us, we send into the future. We send into our children, to our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. And these are the ones, our great-grandchildren, our great-grandparents. They deal with people that we will never know because we'll be gone. So these grandchildren will take that message into the future, whatever message that's given to them, just as our great-grandparents brought into the future from the past, whatever knowledge that was given to them. So in this time continuum it's a connection of our past, present, and future, and it tells us that that space itself is a time continuum, and that everything is in constant motion. Everything is in constant motion. Everything is energy. Energy is surrounds us, and like I said before, that's one of the things that we understand, that a lot of Indigenous people understand, is that we are all related. Everything is everything is our relative, because of course everything is on that time continuum. Energy is always flowing. It doesn't matter. It just changes form. That's another important understanding that we have, is that we understand that energy changes form, but energy doesn't end. It just changes form. And that's interesting because there's a theory called particle theory. And that particle theory says exactly that. It says that energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just changes form. And that's one of the basic understandings of our people, is that energy changes form, and we are energy, and we've changed form. And then when we're finished here at this place, because one of the understandings is that we are here in our physical form, we are just visiting at this place. This place is just a little stop in the reality of what's out there. And we come here to visit, and we live out our lives. And then when we're finished living, we return back to the vastness of that reality we know as space. And we change form. Our energy reverts back to energy. Gichigogak, beings of energy, beings of light. And again, this is an equation, this is equitable to concepts of particle theory, concepts of quantum theory. And so there's depths of knowledge in a lot of these Chimu and sacred tellings that our people understand. And for the longest time, these sacred tellings have been equated to legends, to fairy tales, to fanciful stories, to simple child's bedtime stories. When in fact, if you take the time to understand what it is they're talking about, and understand the language, and understand the culture, and understand the ceremony, then you'll find a depth of knowledge that's there. And I'm sure this can be said for every Indigenous culture all over the face of the earth. It's just that nobody took the time to stop and ask us what we thought. And so those are some of the things I'd like to share with you at this time. And maybe we can stop it right there, and we can turn it over to our moderators, and they can either pick out some questions for us or make some comments.
Yeah, no, it's kind of interesting that you ended in that way, because as you were sharing with us, I couldn't help but think how many similarities there are. I certainly am not a knowledge keeper about the stars in the Mohawk culture, but we have similar stories a lot. And, I've made myself a couple of notes to, seek out some of those people that might have that. Like, do we have something? I know we have a story about the coming of winter, but is there a connection with Orion, as there is with you and with the Anishinaabe? So that's it's a big question for me right now anyway, and to learn some of those terms in our language, because I know there's a lot that gets lost in translation too, right? So I think that's really important. So no, super, super interesting. We have had a couple of questions come in, and one is from a student in Halton, and they ask, can a star turn into a planet?
A star turn into a planet? From what I understand, stars make planets. And the way that is that that fiery, big, huge, massive ball of energy is a nuclear furnace, and that nuclear furnace is has its own lifespan. A star has its own lifespan. It's born, it's created in the event of a supernova, and all that. So when a star explodes, the nebulas are formed, and in those nebulas are all the elements that are known. And as time progresses and these clouds of gases float around space, gravity starts pulling a lot of these elements together. And then at some point, as the elements, as the gravity gathers more mass of these dust and particles that are floating around in space, they start causing nuclear fusion. And when a nuclear fusion happens, stars are created, brand new stars are born. And then from that same nebula, planets are made. So in all that dust, the same process happens with gravity, and planets are formed where no nuclear fusion takes place, but planets are formed.
Oh, thank you for that. Another question, I think I already know the answer to this one too, but from Greater Essex, someone is wondering if there is a place that they could get a Cree Star Map, like the poster that was that Jody was sharing. Is there access to some of those, because they'd like to post that in their classrooms?
Oh yeah. Well, that's one of my major hopes and major goals, is to have one of those maps in every classroom. I've also written 3 books, and 2 of those books are central to Achagosuk, the stars, from a Cree perspective. And I also like to have those books in every classroom. So if see if I can put it on a chat here so people can. Do everybody have access to that chat, or you don't?
No, just a couple of us. So
okay, well, I'll type in the information.
We can send it out through email though afterwards.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Jody.
So this is my website. And on that website, there are about 16 videos pertaining to a lot of the stories that I mentioned in passing. And they can be used in the classroom. And I don't think they're downloadable, but you can use them live in the classroom and show the students, or the students can access them themselves. And these are the 3 books that I've written. Opaskwayak, The Night Sky Stories. This is the first one that was done probably 4 or 5 years ago. And Kitchikizek is just came out in October. And no, I Have Lived for Life just came out in October, and Kitchikizek just came out a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
And the Kitchikizek is the second edition to Opaskwayak, The Night Sky Stories. So this Kitchikizek again is central to a lot of the star information, the sacred tellings of our people, and they connect a lot of the constellations to that sky. And in the Kitchikizek book, I think, and also in the for sure in the I Have Lived 4 Lives, there's maps in there, and one of those maps is that star map that you've seen, and the other map is that sturgeon map, star map that you've seen. They're both in that book. But if you go to achakwaskwun.com, there's a link where you can find me, or I can even give you out my email right here. So my email is if I got that right.
I think Jody is she has on the screen your contact
information.
Yeah,
you got all the information. Good.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah, that's right too. Jody has all that stuff. Yeah, so you can contact me, and I can. I'm having Good Minds. Good Minds is a publishing company out of 6 Nations.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been working with them, and we're in the process right now of getting a lot of these star maps made as posters, so they'll be available to especially to educate for educational purposes.
No, I think that's great. And it's a way of sharing it, right? It's one of those things that we often struggle with.
Yeah,
in our tellings, should we be sharing all of these things? I know certainly from our perspective, from the Mohawk perspective, we sometimes get concerned about recording these things in this way, but it's important. If we're going to continue, as you said, we've lost 85% of that knowledge already, so we don't want to lose any more. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, the thing about that is the interesting thing about that is that 85% of that knowledge that was lost, it's not lost. The elder said it's sleeping. The way we've gained that knowledge, we have our own methodological steps that we acquire knowledge. And one of them was dreaming, one of them was fasting, one of them was sun dancing, one of them was sweat lodge, one of them was teaching lodges, one of them was shaking tent, one of them was traveling and talking to people, one of them was dreaming. So we have all these steps that we use to gain that knowledge. And the thing about that is that we still do those things. Therefore, that knowledge is still reclaimable.
Yeah, that's a super good point.
Yeah,
super good. Oh, no, that was really good. There's a couple of questions that have come in. So one was from the Greater Essex School Board, and they're wondering if when stars die, if they turn into black holes.
Well, the astronomers tell us that's one possibility. The stars, when they get to a point where they become very unstable and they use up the majority of their energy, we're told they have two options. Well, I shouldn't say they have two options. Two things happen, either or. And when they're expanding and contracting like that, when they expand to a certain point to get because of they're so unstable, then they explode, and it forms a supernova. And on the reverse of that coin, when they're contracting, and again being on so unstable, that they contract and they keep contracting until they get to they have such immense gravity that the energy just blinks out, and they create something called a black hole. Yeah, so that's the either or of the end of a star's existence. Yeah, they do make black holes, some of them, and some of them do make supernovas.
Yeah, great. One last question maybe, and it could be a big one. Do you think there is life beyond Earth? Our students are wondering, especially in Thames Valley. That's where that's coming from. Yeah,
that's an interesting question. When somebody asks that question, it always brings to mind Tyson DeGrasse. One of the famous quotes that he had that I really liked is that saying that there's no other life out in our reality, out in that space, is like someone going to the ocean and dipping a glass in the ocean and looking at the water inside and saying there's no whales. So I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, for myself, from my perspective, I say yeah, there is life out there, because space is unimaginably big. And then if you start looking into things like quantum theory, and my people believe that there's a place out there called Pagwangisik, the black hole, the what do you call it, hole in the sky. Pagwangisik, the hole in the sky. And what they're saying there, that's a doorway, that's a spatial anomaly, that's a wormhole. That means there's other realities through that whole wormhole. So space is bigger than what we can see. So yeah, there's got to be life out there.
I remember watching a movie once, and that question was posed, and the response was, well, if there isn't, it's an awfully big waste of space, right? so that's really good, Wilfred. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your knowledge with us. I know we've just scratched the surface for how much there is out there. that you could share. And I know there's so many tellings that are connected with all those things. So I really appreciate the time. Really appreciate all the questions that came in from all the students and teachers out there in the different boards. And just for me, thanks again, and Yagoa. I'll turn it over to you, Jody, for any last minute things we need to know.
For the logistics.
Yeah.
So as this will be available using the same link, I will follow up with an email with the resources that were mentioned today, so you have access to all of those. And again, a huge gratitude and appreciation for you, Wilfred, for sharing your knowledge with us here. And hopefully the students listening have a new perspective and are a little bit more curious about that night sky. And I really want to encourage you all to take the time. It's night earlier on, so you don't have to wait as long to go and look up at that beautiful night sky that greets us every evening with such majesty and magic and wonder. And so I'll turn it back over to you, Wilfred, for some last words to close for this morning's session.
All right. Thank you, my relatives. I just want to mention that tonight, if possible, if you're away from all the artificial lights and it's not cloudy out there, go out and look for Arcturus in the northeastern sky. And in that area of Arcturus, there's a comet that is visible if you have binoculars. And that comet is called Comet Leonard. And that comet there is making an appearance. The last time Earth saw that comet is when the Neanderthals were roaming around. So that means it's been quite a while since that comet has visited us. So this is a once in a lifetime experience. I've been trying to look at that comet for the last 4 nights, and it's been cloudy here all the time. I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning each morning and never had a chance yet. Hopefully in the next couple of days it'll clear up and I'll have a look at it. So I want to thank everybody for listening. Thank you.